made you want to become a truck driver?
A divorce.
That would do it.
Yeah. My first wife, she left, and I didn't want to stay in. I didn't want to stay around with all the memories. And I'm from Texarkana, Texas, and wages there were horrible. I think minimum wage was like $4.35 an hour,
Oh,
and I was struggling just to make ends meet. I went to a truck driving school office. The guy's name was Rick, and I walked in. I said, "Hey, I want to be a truck driver," and he didn't even know what to say. He said, "I've been doing this for 5 years. I've never had anybody just walk in and say, I want to be a truck driver." He said, "I've always had to talk people into it."
right.
So November 7th, 1987 is when I became a truck driver.
That's amazing. I got in
Yeah.
2012, so you've got a few years
Oh,
on
wow.
me.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So what made you even think of like semi truck out of all things?
I wanted to get away from Texarkana. It's what I've always wanted to do. So it's just what I've stuck with all these years. There's times where I just get mad at it and I'm like, I am fed up. I'm tired of being a target for the cops. I'm tired of being, dealing with shippers and receivers and attitudes and, crappy companies. And I'll quit and I'll go. I'm going to find a job that'll get me home every day. And then I end up driving something local. I drove a wrecker truck. I drove a heavy wrecker for 3 years. I operated a concrete pump truck for 3 years. And still, even though I wasn't driving over the road, I'm still end up driving something. So it's
Yep.
like once it's in your blood, you can't get away from it.
So how long have you been with Artur?
I hired on June 7th, 21. So it's been 2 years and 3 months.
What's your average with the trucking company?
This, from 1987 up until about 5 years ago, I had never stayed with one company for more than a year.
Really?
About 5 years ago, I stayed with the first company for over a year. I never made it to 18 months, year and a half. Artur Express is the first company I have ever broken 2 years. I've driven for over 200 different companies since I started driving. You get new drivers that they get excited about driving and they get out and they love it for the first 2 or 3 years. And everybody wants a big shiny truck or a fast truck or more money. And you get to the point where any little thing will cause you to jump companies. And I keep telling them the grass might be greener on the other side of the fence, but it could be that the grass is greener because there's a septic tank under it.
I was just gonna
You may
say
not
manure.
you may not want to jump because you may jump and fall right through into the same crap you're in right now.
So are you doing the lease program there at Artur,
No,
or are you an owner op or
no, I did lease programs in the past where I actually ended up buying the trucks out. I did one that had a what was that? I did one that had a $30,000 balloon payment at the end, and I bought it, paid it off. I did two others that didn't have balloon payments. I paid both of those. At one time, I had 5 trucks or working through, and you know what? I don't have any desire to own a truck again. Well, I want a paycheck, and they can handle all the nightmare of owning a truck. The IRS, number one enemy. Uh,
right.
Maintenance and breakdowns and repairs and constant worry. I mean, really think about it. Even with your pink truck, let's say you go in, you get that brand new pink truck. It's got 5 miles on it. You get it brand new. You get it by the time you get it paid off, it ain't a new truck no more. Now you get to start thinking about that next $34,000 engine you need.
Yep.
And it's a never ending battle. You can't ever get to the end of it. It's always going to cost you more money.
You're right. I mean, you're constantly just chasing it because once
Mm-hmm.
once it's done, you have to buy a new engine and then other things go out and then you're just constantly so I always wonder, like, if you're actually getting ahead. You do OTR as a company driver with Artur then?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do the lease. But I did like the idea of the lease. You know, if you're not driving, you're not paying.
Mhm.
I like that concept and that design. I just don't want the hassle. I don't want all the bills and all the
Right.
taxes and record keeping and all that. You know what? I'll just give me my load. Leave me alone. Let me go drive my load. If I have a problem, I'll call you and let you know. We'll figure it out. Or if I don't need you, I won't call you. I'll figure it out on my own. After being out here for 5 million miles, there's not much that I can't figure out. And but yeah, I just prefer, and that's the way Brian is. Brian Pierce is my dispatcher, and he doesn't bother me. I don't bother him. He gives me a load, I go do it, and then he hears from me at the end of it when I'm ready for another load.
I
And
like
Artur doesn't
that, 'cause,
micromanage. That's one of my favorite things about Artur is they don't micromanage.
like I've been with some companies that are just like they're calling every 5 minutes. Like, dude, have I been late on a load yet? I have an excellent history. Why are you hounding me?
Yeah, I'll tell them. I say, look, if I'm going to be late, you'll know that I'm late before the customer does. I'll call
Right.
you and tell you, hey, I'm going to be late. Sorry, y'all shouldn't have set this load up this way. You know, um, but I've been here with Artur now long enough that I'm going to say I've probably hauled for at least 80% of their regular customers. Brian knows that I don't care where I go. That's another problem that a lot of these drivers that are crying about, I don't ever get any freight. I don't ever get any miles. I made $600 this week. Don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't, in orientation, they give you that little piece of paper, the little map of the United States, and they say, circle where you don't want to go. Don't circle nothing. Leave it blank. I don't want to go to the Northeast. I don't want to go to Houston. I don't want to go to Atlanta. I don't want to go to the West Coast. I don't want to drive in the mountains. You need to go work at McDonald's. We don't have any freight for you. You've eliminated 90% of our freight, And Brian used to say, hey, where do you want to go? I don't care. As long as you get me, I drive 7 to 8 weeks at a time. I stay
Wow.
out roughly 2 months, and then I go to Tucson, and my son is stationed at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, and I'll go spend about 5 or 6 days with him. It works perfect for me. Brian works with me all the time. I had one incident this last time that I went to Tucson because my son went to Kuwait. He'll be back next week. The last time I went out there, the load that I had going out there fell through. And so I didn't have any way to get out there. So I called in, and Sadie was like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to have to fly. So Sadie booked the ticket for me through Artur and got the ticket set up for me. And then they just held the money out of my check and paid it back. They have helped me in every way possible. And they've never once told me no. Whenever I say, hey, it's time for me to go see my son or one of my other sons or one of my other sons. I got 3 sons and 3 daughters, like the Brady Bunch. But when I get ready to go somewhere, because they know when I'm out here to work and make money for the truck. And when I get done, then I expect to go somewhere and spend 3 or 4 days. I've earned it. If you were in our Facebook group, probably everybody in there got tired of listening to me talk about my son, because I was so proud of him. But like Miss Sue, she's at the safety window. Every time she sees me, hey, how's your son? And everybody in there, Sadie, everybody knows about my son because I talk about him all the time. And but I've never once had any problem when I get ready to go home. They're just like, okay. When he left to go into basic training, I was a single dad for 7 years. I raised him for the last 7 years before he left. And so when he left, it was really hard on me. I told him, I said, hey, my son is leaving to go to basic training. I'm not going to get to see him for 7 or 8 weeks. I'd like to go home for 20 days. I don't want to take 20 days off in July of 22. And they were like, okay. And I'm like, huh? I expected them to give me okay, well, you're going to have to clean your truck out and park it at the yard and get away home. And then you have to come. Nope. Just take your truck home, park it in the front yard, make sure it's secure, make sure it, locked up and secure. Spend time with your boy, see him before he leaves. Never an argument. He will be back from Kuwait October the 5th. For the last 5 months or 4.5 months that he's been there, the coolest temperature they had for the last 4.5 months was like 117 degrees. So it's hot over there. When he gets back here, he'll be like, Dad, I'm cold. What do you mean you're cold? It's 90 degrees outside. I got to have a hoodie. I'm cold.
Bring him an Artur hoodie.
we sent him a care package. Sue and Kate and everybody that was involved, and Sadie. Sadie wrote a note to him, and we sent him a care package to Kuwait with 2 or 3 Artur T-shirts and a beanie and a mug and pens and stylus. And I got him a purple hoodie. Well, actually, he's got 3 hoodies now, so he's got almost as many Artur clothes as I do. Most of my closet is Artur.
That's awesome. That's really sweet of them to do that.
Yeah, it was awesome. Artur, Sue took me back to the little store where all the clothing is. Mm-hmm. Picked out what I wanted, took it up front, was going to fill out the paper to pay for it. And she went and talked to Kate, and Kate was like, no, we're not charging him for that stuff. We're giving it to him. It's his son. He's in there for him.